most shocking thing that you could disclose in this conversation? And is there anything that is like, quote unquote, breaking news or news soon to break or something that is coming down the pipeline that you have encountered?
Yeah, I think the biggest shock that most people uh, don't realize is, let me just tell you, it's apocryphal, but it's an important story. A man on our team named Goodall. James Goodall is a very famous aerospace historian. And the week that the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works was dying, is his last week before he died of cancer in 1995, Mr. Goodall called Ben Rich, and asked about this whole issue. And I have a letter from Ben Rich to a friend that of his saying that there were both man-made and extraterrestrial UFOs in his handwriting on the stationery for the president of the Lockheed Skunk Works. That is in our archive. Everything's in there, my friend. Nobody reads, but it's not my fault people don't read. So I've spent 35 years and 20, $30 million to put this together. If people don't want to look at it, it's not my fault. People say, where's the evidence? They're right there. Can you read English or whatever? So anyway, I get very frustrated with that. But, after putting this much effort and had 4 people on my team assassinated, and I've had 3 assassination attempts, and people don't even want to read. It's like, well, if you're so lazy and stupid, you don't want to read, it's not my fault. Anyway, I won't go on a spiraling rant about that anymore. But I have disclosure PTSD from doing this. At any rate, I will admit it. But the Ben Rich story is amazing because he said, look, anything you can imagine. So go look at he said, look at anything you've seen in Star Trek. We've already done at the Lockheed Skunk Works, and it's not at Area 51. It's out in the desert, and we know where those sites are. So, and this was 30 years ago, almost exactly 30 years ago. So the technologies are way beyond what most people can imagine that humans have. Unfortunately, some of the worst psychopathic and sociopathic criminals to ever walk the earth are in possession of them, which is very dangerous. It's dangerous to us. It's dangerous to the ETs.
Who are these criminals specifically?
Well, I don't want to name. I mean, I can name some names. There are people who historically have been involved with this, such as Admiral Bobby Ray Inman and Dick Cheney and others. I mean, we know who some are. We know some that are living, some that are dead, and we know who are currently operatives. So most of the people you see in the UFO subculture, or a certain number of them, are also operatives for this organization that spread disinformation and false information. And that's their job. I mean, they appear to be UFO researchers, and they're actually counterintelligence people. And we know who they are, and people have been duly notified. There are a couple of them who are very prominent that are on the list of folks to be interrogated and quite possibly arrested for treason. But that's another discussion. But I think the other thing that's really astonishing, in 1992, I first started this project to do CE5 contact. I wasn't involved in any of this disclosure stuff. I founded the whole modern disclosure movement in the mid and late 90s after I found out this cabal had submarined the president and all this. But my real passion is making contact and developing higher states of consciousness for people and starting a civilization that goes into that beautiful future instead of this dystopian situation we're in now. And so, but in 1992, I had a group of people, sort of like what we're doing in Arizona in September, but it was a smaller group. It was maybe 50 or 60 people on a beach near Pensacola. And we were doing CE5 contact, and 4 ET craft appear. Well, one of them gets photographed and is on the front page of the Pensacola paper the next day. And shortly thereafter, the head of Army intelligence contacts me and asked for a meeting the following month, April of '92. And it was very threatening. And he said, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I said, "Well," and he said, "You've discovered the Rosetta Stone of ET contact, because all ET communication systems interface with consciousness and directed thought, like a laser, right? That's what I discovered when I was a kid, when I was 18. So, and then I set it up, this whole system, the whole CE5 contact app, which, people like Aaron Rodgers, he has that and has practiced that. That creates the ability to make contact. And he didn't want that. The General Stubblebine, his name was General Albert Stubblebine III. And then the following month, after he expressed his displeasure, he had a CIA and a National Security Agency guy there with him when he met with me. He offered me the following month $2 billion if I would stop what I was doing and join his little clique of goose-stepping fascists. And I said, "No, thanks. I'm not interested." But it was a serious offer of $2 billion. And that was in $1992. He had access to that. That's a rounding error for that organization. They deal with trillions of dollars in clandestine money, way more than the federal defense budget. So I said, "Look, I am not going to get off the path I'm on for no amount of threat and no amount of money." But that is how that whole started. And that's at the same time, there were what I call the white hats, the people who were in intelligence and military who wanted to see this subject resolved, right? That has grown and grown and grown. So I started out with, half a dozen whistleblowers. Now we have 750 some whistleblowers. And so it's snowballed over the last 33 years. So, but one of the things I learned in a couple years ago was that there is an operation, and this is why he wanted me to become part of his team, General Stubblebine, where they've taken the science of consciousness and weaponized it. So what they've done is that they have what are called psionic or P3 operators that will basically they are become instruments of their controllers, humans that then use these people who have been trained using drugs and various electronics to be able to, in consciousness, lock on to the guidance systems of an ET craft and kind of lure it or bring it over an area and then hit it with an electromagnetic and scalar weapon. Now, I have been at 2 facilities where that's being done actively. And so this sounds like science fiction. It isn't. It's a horrific use of very advanced technologies that are interfaces between electromagnetics and consciousness and thought. And that is the new frontier in science, right? Is the science of consciousness. And but I think that General Stubblebine knew that I had mastered that because of my meditation and near-death experience. But I also understand the physics of it because I'm a medical doctor. And so he was offering me all this money to be part of this nasty little bit of business. I didn't know until a couple of years ago the extent to which that had been developed as a technology for killing ET craft and killing their occupants. So it's a monstrous program. And most of the people who are in training to become P3 operators end up in permanent comas or die. But the ones that survive, quite a few of them are quite adept at doing this. I call it cosmic hijacking.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed that episode, you might also enjoy this episode over here, as well as this one over here. Thank you for subscribing. Appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video.